Yeah. So tell me more about that. I would just be curious.
I'm in an economics of women and work class, and I'm like the only one
Wait,
in the
there's
class.
an economics of women
Yes, and it was required. It was required, and I'm the only pretty much conservative in the class that believes that the gender pay gap is a myth. That
Well,
there's
obviously it is,
yeah,
of course.
but they're so stern on grading as if there is one. So if I say something that's against that, then I'm graded differently.
This proves my point that college is a scam. You should not be forced to go into debt to study things that are not true.
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today, guys, we're back giving a new video. Today, we're gonna be checking out Charlie Kirk. This is the best of Charlie Kirk 2025 out South Florida. This is gonna be amazing. I would love to check this video out with you guys. I'm calling Charlie Kick because I love kicking us. Let's get right to today's video, guys.
Hello, you are the first question of our tour. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Here we go.
Good. My name's Mackenzie. It's so awesome to meet you. I think you're awesome. I was just wanted to ask, since college is a scam, what should us, what should we do if like we have to go to school to get a degree? Like I want to be a social worker, so I need a degree. How can I make the best of my experience here if I'm getting scammed?
Well, you're already doing it. I mean, look, just so everyone understands my perspective, if you have to go to college, go to the least expensive option available and get through as quickly as possible. But my opinion is that not just my opinion, the data shows there's millions of jobs that are open that don't require a college degree. We need more plumbers, electricians, welders. I think we need more people that are entrepreneurs and less people just with college degrees. But look, you're all in college. You're all kind of part of this institution. Just understand that half of you guys, when you graduate college, if you get a job, will get a job that doesn't even require a college degree. So half of people that go to college end up not even using the college degree. But as a social worker, honestly, my biggest advice for you is that hold on to your conservative principles even when you go into social work. Social work is super left-wing, as you well know. Or you're probably learning it throughout. And the reason being is this, is that when you're in social work, you are engrossed and surrounded by very sad stories, people that need help, people that need compassion, and automatically you think, well, we need a bigger government to help those people. Well, we as conservatives have a completely different perspective, that maybe instead of big government, we need big families, and maybe instead of the government being strengthened, we need more dads in the home, and instead of growing the size of the state, we need more people to go to church and to believe in the divine and respect of the individual and the dignity of every human being. So that's correct. Jesus is Lord. You're right. And so we can share with a lot of social workers or in social work the need to help people that have less. In fact, we as Christians are called to do that. But we believe that permanent government assistance and programs is the wrong way to do that. Are you finding in social work it's a little bit left-leaning, or you're?
Well, I'm not there yet.
Oh, you will be.
Yeah. But I do, I want to go to social work. I want to help foster kids. The pro-life movement is something that's really important to me. So I want to do what I can to help the foster system and just make the future anti-abortion.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
first question. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I get a
Yes.
hat?
Would you like me to sign it?
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Now I want to ask a question.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you. Yes.
Hey, Charlie. During the 2016 Republican primary, when Trump got booed on stage, he famously said that's all his donors and special interests, and that the only reason that they're not loving him was because he doesn't want their money, but rather wanted to do what's best for the American people. He also tweeted out in 2015, Sheldon Adelson is looking to give big dollars to Rubio because he feels he can mold him into his perfect little puppet. I agree. In 2024, not only has Trump appointed Little Marco as his Secretary of State, but has also accepted $100 million in political contributions from the widow of the very same donor who he called out in 2015.
Miriam Adelson, yeah.
Miriam Adelson. If the foundation of MAGA was to be a raw, authentic movement in the face of overwhelming establishment corruption, why did Trump accept hundreds of millions of dollars in political contributions from mega donors?
Well, you have to finance your campaign somehow, right? And we won.
In 2015, he financed it himself. He was self-funded.
He ran in the primary. He did. You're right.
That's right. Yeah.
But look, you have to accept money from different coalitions of people. Are you glad Trump won?
To some extent, yeah.
Okay. To what extent are you not happy he won?
I think he doesn't represent the same thing that he represented in 2015.
How?
Okay. Tell me why.
In 2015, he represented a political outsider. He was not the establishment. He was a stark contrast from the establishment. He was opposing Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, the Bushes.
So in practice, how is Trump not governing as an outsider? He literally just like fired 300,000 people in the last month. We have, he got rid of USAID. He's ending the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Of course.
Border crossings are down 95%. I mean, how is he not an outsider?
Of course, he's an outsider from the previous administration, the Biden administration, but he's not really the same Trump that he was in 2015.
I think he's better.
He's better?
Yeah.
Way better.
Really?
I mean, but let's go through the list. Think about it. I mean, in every single element, the first term he didn't get rid of USAID. First term he didn't say he wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. The first term he did not say we're going to have the largest deportation effort ever, of which we are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're actually seeing new and improved promises and fulfillment of the original Trump agenda.
What happened to the wall?
Well, you mean the wall that Biden decided to deconstruct? I think what you're talking about is border crossings, which is more important, right? So
No, I'm talking about the border wall that Trump promised he would build in 2015.
Right, of which he largely did in his first term,
Yeah.
disassembled under Biden. But the
True.
essence is border crossings, right? Because we want a wall to stop border crossings, right? So how many border crossings were there approximately last day of Biden's day in office?
Tell me.
No, guess.
I don't know. You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, 11,000, right?
Okay.
No, but you're criticizing Trump, so you got to know your stuff, right?
Sure.
11,000. How many as of yesterday?
Tell me.
124.
Wow.
So we went from 11,000 to 124.
But
That's massive.
So what President Trump has done, so obviously you care about stopping the flow of people coming into the
Of
country,
course.
right? So President
Illegally.
Trump has now said from 11,000 to 124, 95% decrease, almost a 98% decrease. So he's doing, through executive action, the things that Biden refused to do. But yeah, I think it's new and improved. I think it's an exciting, amazing new administration. But I want you to be very clear and crisp. What are your objections to what he's doing versus 2015?
again, I really got to hone in on he didn't promise during the campaign that he'd build the wall. In 2024, his campaign never talked about building the
No,
wall.
he said the largest deportation force in the history of America, of which we're
Yeah.
seeing right now. Child rapists, child sex traffickers, and predators are being deported on a daily basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, by the way, the wall is being built. The biggest reason the wall was ever put into question was because of federal judges that were blocking the construction of the wall. So he had to get more creative. You know what he's done in this term they didn't do the first term? He's mobilized the military to actually run the southern border, and he has designated the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations with use of lethal force actions against them. So it feels as if you're trying to find complaints against him. I'm trying
Yeah.
to understand where you're coming from, because
Thank you,
this
Charlie.
Trump 2.0 is 100
much
times better
better.
than the first Trump term.
True.
Well, it just seems like he's a different Trump than the Trump in 2015.
Okay, but use evidence, not emotions.
Right.
So what evidence do you have? Not like it feels, it seems. Like what evidence do you have?
My evidence is that my original question, he took hundreds of millions of dollars and he didn't build the wall.
But no, we've already been through that. For example, like the border crossings are coming at an all-time low. The wall is
I'm not
actually,
talking about border crossings.
But you build a wall to prevent border crossings. So if you can get border crossings low without a wall, then it's even.
and to establish sovereignty and
no,
to...
of course. Look, he will build those things. I just find it interesting. I'm just trying to get down
Will
to the
he
element
build the
of it.
wall?
If courts allow him to, of course he will. I mean, obviously.
But he has the biggest mandate that he will ever have.
And he is fulfilling it every single day. So, did
He's
you
trying
vote
his
for Trump?
best.
I abstained from voting.
You abstain from voting. Okay, well, I'll say one thing. I hope you enjoy a better America, because even though you didn't vote for the right candidate, you're going to enjoy a better country thanks to President Donald Trump. Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Kirk.
Thank you. Yes.
How's it going, Charlie?
Good. How are you?
Good. My name is Camden. I've been a supporter for you from a long time. And I have a quick question, or two quick questions. The first one is, why are colleges getting so much more liberal in this generation specifically, and what can we do about that?
Well, I will say students are becoming more right-wing. I mean, this is amazing. By the way, Gen Z was the biggest move towards Donald Trump of any demographic and generation this last November. So thank you guys for that. It was a major move. Would you say this campus is pretty liberal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
Do you guys feel as if on campus that if you speak out as a conservative, you are graded differently?
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys feel as if you say a conservative view, you'll be graded negatively.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. I would just be curious.
I'm in an economics of women and work class, and I'm like the only one in the
there's
class.
an economics of women.
Yes, and it was required. It was required, and I'm the only pretty much conservative in the class that believes that the gender pay gap is a myth. That
Well, yeah,
there's-
obviously it is,
Yeah,
of course.
but they're so stern on grading as if there is one. So if I say something that's against that, then I'm graded differently.
This proves my point that college is a scam. You should not be forced to go into debt to study things that are not true.
Right.
Thank you.
I reject the whole premise. But yeah, look, part of the problem is that it's taxpayer funded. President Trump is waging a war against the college cartel, which is amazing, saying that federal taxpayer money will not go to schools like this if they teach garbage like critical race theory, DEI. It's going to be a process actually unfolding that. But yeah, the other problem is that these professors have never done anything in the real world, many of them. They have lived in their kind of circles of abstractions for their entire life. And again, I truly believe that if you were to go, and I'm not saying everyone should not go to college, but I think it's actually something you should consider. I think that doing a gap year instead of just going right into college and spending the equivalent money, like if I could ask, are you in-state or out-of-state at this school?
In-state.
You're in-state. What is the tuition, all-in-cost tuition, room and board here?
Way too much.
Can I, 40,000, 50,000? 7,500 all in? The person at the mic, but yeah.
I have bright future, so it's different for me. But
Okay, but you got to give me some idea.
around 20.
With tuition, room and board, and everything, all in. Okay, so it's subsidized by taxpayers though, but it's a separate issue. Okay, so but for $20,000, I think you could better spend that money, quite honestly, experiencing other cultures, getting another job, like doing things outside of just the walls of this school. That's why I'm such a critic. And I'll just be honest, I employ 1,000 people at Turning Point. I don't care where you went to college. Employers do not care where you went to college. They care about, can you do the job? And we are seeing a change in the workplace, and colleges will be the last ones to adjust in this broken, outdated model, is that it's much more like sports teams, which is like, what is your skill? What do you bring to the table? Not like, where did you go to college or how long you were there? We're seeing the kind of emergence of a free agent system, if you will, based on skill and merit. So anyway, hope that answers your question. Thanks, man.
I have one more question.
Yeah, really quick.
Okay, so I'm a Christian and I'm pro-life, right? And there's a lot of conservatives who also believe in the death penalty. But my question is, how can you believe in the death penalty and also be pro-life?
I mean, it's a great question, but let me just. I think it's logically contradictory. Right. So, if I may use a young lady as a so let's pretend she was pregnant, okay, and there was an unborn human being in utero, and let's pretend he is on death row for murdering 5 people. There's a difference. That baby did nothing wrong in utero. He used his agency to go kill 5 other people. And as a Christian, the only law that is repeated in all 5 books of the Torah is that if you kill a life, if you take a life, your life will be taken.
Taken.
Can I counter?
Yeah,
so
please.
Paul killed Christians before he wrote 13 books of the Bible. So how do we?
Well, yeah, I mean,
that?
he obviously repented and gave his life to Christ and became a super amazing disciple. I guess the question is, do we believe in the ultimate administration of justice? And I think, of course, you do. If you take a life, your life should be taken. But making a moral equivalency of an unborn baby that has done nothing wrong, which, by the way, we have no problem slaughtering, right?
I do.
Well, no, I'm saying as a country, right? We over 1.5 million a year, and then we say, oh, well, this guy who burned an entire house down and killed 5 people, we need to feel sorry for them. Now, this is not you, but I could turn it on its head that bleeding heart liberals will say they feel more sorry for the person on death row than for the baby in the womb that never had a chance to live. And so for me, I think the person that, I think the death penalty should only be used very rarely, very sparingly, and should be done quickly. In fact, I even think that we should bring back, public executions on certain people. No, but think about it. I think that, and you guys should laugh, but it should be done. You guys should laugh, but think about it. Some of these crimes are so heinous against humanity that it must be done as a statement and not say that, we're gonna make you a sympathy. So for example, I think that Luigi Maggioni guy, I think he should get the death penalty. I think that if you're gonna go kill someone in the back of the head in the streets of New York and act as if I should be sympathetic because you didn't get a healthcare premium you didn't like, I think you should get the death penalty for that. I think if you take a life, your life should be taken, and it should be done obviously through a jury of the peers. So anyway, that's how I would respond to that. It's the administration of justice, and it's also more specifically, the life in the womb has not hurt anybody else. Right. The person on death penalty definitionally has hurt somebody else's life.
Thank you. And then
appreciate it. Yes.
Since I don't have a lot of time, if I had more time to ask more questions, can I get you on my podcast in the future?
Maybe.
All right.
Here's my hat. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. If you guys disagree, you're welcome to cut in line. But yes, sir. Next question.
Hey, so my name's Anderson. I agree with you on most things, but I disagree. I think I disagree with you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. On kind of the Republican Party's current stance on the Department of Education. I think that I moved here from Illinois in Chicago. Yeah.
What part of Chicago are you from?
Arlington Heights.
Yeah. So what high school do you go to?
I
Hersey or
didn't go to
Prospect?
high school there, but I was supposed to go to Hersey.
Okay, I went to Wheeling.
Oh, my dad lived there.
So
That's crazy.
yeah, so I know the area quite well. Did you go
Yeah.
to middle school there?
Yeah, I went to middle school there. I went to Thomas.
I went to MacArthur.
Oh, that's cool.
So I know your neighborhood very well.
Yeah, yeah. And so how I've seen like kind of the changes from moving down here from the north, it seems like there's like this very like antagonistic view with education, which I didn't have in Illinois, at least in the part that I lived in, because it was a well-off suburb. But I see the Republican Party moving far closer to like getting rid of it. And I think that having a tool to keep schools responsible based on the curriculum that they're teaching is far more valuable than getting rid of it just because there's so many problems with it.
Fair argument. Thank you. So the Department of Education was formed in 1979. Do you think it's done a good job of improving educational standards for kids in this country?
No, mostly no. But I think the proper tool of a federal government saying, hey, you have to teach truths, even if that local community doesn't necessarily want to. Like the example that I kind of thought of, because I was talking to someone about this, I thought of like a coal mining town. In that town, it might be the most valuable thing to teach about mining, to teach about that type of trade, versus if you live in New York City, you're going to be learning a lot more of like markets and just overall higher education. And I think that that's unfair to the people who are born into that area, just because that area needs that economic development.
So fair question. So what you're saying is from a more conservative slant, probably, that a federal Department of Education that actually mandates the right things from the top down.
Yes.
Sounds great. Let me tell you why A, that won't happen, and why B, I think that's a bad idea. So even though it sounds conceptually right. A, anything that starts in D.C. with a good intention will be taken over by the cancer, the woke tumor and the woke cancer. It metastasizes and envelops the entire thing, even if it has a really good intent. I'll give you a great example. We have this huge fight right now in the Department of Defense trying to get rid of all the woke stuff in the Marines and the Air Force. If we can't keep the Marines from becoming woke, we have no chance of the Department of Education ever not becoming in that
Fair
way.
enough, yeah.
And just by the actual fiber of what education is, more people on the left gravitate into that space. Now, let me agree with you before I kind of get into the second point. The biggest problem with education, which is why we should get rid of the Department of Education, is it's not the Department of Education, it's the Department of Administrators. And this is what's very important. This is not a war on teachers. There are 11 million people in America that are in government, that are in jobs, in government, taxpayer funded, in education. If you were to guess, how many would you say are teachers?
30%?
Yeah, so that's almost correct. You're right.
Okay.
So about 7 million, about 6.7 million of the 11 million are administrators. And the people, like, most of our education money goes towards paper pushers, career counselors, people that fill in paperwork unnecessarily. We're not even supporting the teachers on the front line. So that's the biggest problem, is we have become an administrative-heavy education model. And what has that meant for our kids? Since the advent of Department of Education, as you agree, standards have gone down, literacy has gone down, math and reading has gone down. In fact, most kids in public education, I want you guys to think about this, in high school, have not read an entire book cover to cover.
Yeah.
Do
True.
you guys agree with that?
True.
And I know that when parents hear that, it's so shocking. Most kids, when they are by a junior or senior in school, have not read, they'll read snippets. You guys know that. They have readers, right? A chapter of this. They have not read an entire book cover to cover. Let me go to my second argument why I think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's constitutional or in the role of government to get involved in the most intimate thing, which is education. And this is why. I think our view of education is wrong. You guys look at education probably because you've been taught as just, hey, get here so you can get a job. In the ideal sense, education should be about the growth of the soul and should be about the nurturing of good citizens, which is completely different than just career preparation. The view I have of education, which is what the founders had, which only very few people have, is that you guys should be here to read really old good books understand ancient philosophy, to become a well-rounded citizen of what is good, true, and beautiful, and then you could do any job once you graduate. That the hyper-specialization of our education system has been dreadful. But let me get to the Constitution, and I'd love to get your response. Constitutionally, I think we have made too many exceptions of the government should do this, the government should do that. If we look at Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, it enumerates 17 things that government can do. Education federally is not one of them. And it doesn't even do it well. And I think it's led to this bloat of federal agencies that shouldn't exist. And so finally, let's go back to that coal miner example. That's a really good example in one way. But at the other way, we should not impose on certain communities what values they should learn or not learn. And usually what happens is, we know, it's left-wing ideology that then gets imposed on local Christian communities or conservative communities that might have a different view. So what is your opinion on all that?
I think that I feel like at this point there's so many different I feel like there's so many different government programs that don't adhere to the Constitution, at least not in a literal sense. Yes. Like, I'm not saying they're constitutionally illegal, but
I would say they almost are.
That is definitely an argument. But I do think that there is certain educational standards that need to be upheld. I just don't know the proper way to do that.
Great. So my suggestion is we don't have to think too deeply about it. Is we already know what that looks like, which is that the states should run the education as they see fit, and the federal government should remove. Because we know back in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, we had much higher literacy rates, much better math scores. We've gone down. We're like 26 now in education, yet we're spending $250 billion a year on the federal Department of Education, mostly on administrative paperwork. So I think we need to empower more families. And the final thing I'll say is school choice, allowing parents to be able to send their and by the way, Florida has one of the most robust school choice programs in the country, and it works because competition education is a good thing. Final point, yes.
Yeah, I know. My sister actually works at a Montessori school, and so I'm very on board with like school choice. But I think the first-party governmental schools, in my opinion, should have a certain level of standard. Just because I moved from Illinois to here,
District 214,
and I it wasn't a perfect school district. So I had my fair share of issues there.
Very well funded at Thomas.
It's very well funded. Yes.
And let me just kind of, and then we'll go to the next question. It's well funded for a reason because of very, very high taxes. Not great. I know the area well. But last point is the type of top-down involvement you want should happen on the state level. It should happen in Tallahassee, not in Washington, D.C. Let's get D.C. out of our education. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Want a hat?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Next question. Disagreements, if anyone's there.
Yeah. Can you sign this? Yeah, sure. It's Meta Ray-Bans.
Oh, that's right.
It's for my glasses.
These are the Meta Ray-Bans from Mr. Zuckerberg, so enjoy.
Okay, this itself was really, really amazing to watch, and I think South Florida, they're cool people. At least the disagreement so far is not much, and everyone tends to agree with Charlie. I kind of like respect the entire conversation, and some of them agree with that premise, and some of them they still need their clarity. Okay, let's start from the entire conversation is actually based on education. Education is a scam. School is a scam. And education is not a scam. The entire conversation is all based on school. School itself is a scam. The system has turned to something else. That you don't have any freedom of speech anymore, and you have to be very, very careful of what to say. Number one, according to what the student said, the one that was wearing the blue shirts, I think it's a blue, yeah. He was like, he has a conservative view, and a lot of people who are in the school are liberals. So there's some certain things he's going to say that's going to offend a lot of people. So you kind of like be careful of what you're saying. Your speech too, you have to be very, very careful. If I would say, I love how Charlie handled every single one of them in a very respectful manner. That is very, very respectful. And the students too, they were very, very respectful. There was no one who came to throw insults or abuse abusive language on Charlie, which I actually respected every single one of them who came. The student who talked about the border, Donald Trump is different. Donald Trump of 2025 is different from Donald Trump of 2015. There is no difference. It's just that Donald Trump does get he just got more matured and much better. That is just the only thing I can say. He got more matured and he knew or he knows what he's talking about. And this time around, he's very, very precise and he knows how to make America much great again. And I really love Donald Trump. This 2.0 Donald Trump, like, he's amazing. I love everything he's doing. I love the changes he's making in America. This is just making like how many weeks now he has been in post? Probably almost 10 weeks or 12 weeks he has been in post. And America have been much better than it have ever been during last 4 years during Joe Biden era. So if you ask me, Donald Trump is really doing a good job. Even the border aspects, the deportation of illegal immigrants, he's making every statement he mentioned. All his promises, he's trying to fulfill every single one of them he promised to America. And that shows who a good president is. And there is no need for you to like argue about it again. Donald Trump is an incredible president because your manifesto, you're fulfilling every single one of them. What you told America, this is what I'm going to do. You are actually trying your best, irrespective of, because whenever you're in post, you usually have oppositions who don't want to attain to certain things, even if you are the president. You understand? So he's trying his possible best to fulfill all his promises and make sure that every single thing he told America come true. If you know the purpose you're going to school for instance, now you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, those are beautiful professions that you know, okay, they are definitely going to impact a lot of lives. You understand? But if you're going for other things just for you to just say, okay, you went to college, there is no point of you going to college in the first place. If you're going to spend 4 years doing a course which you're definitely not going to use, and you know of that you're not going to use that course, then why in the world will you spend such amount of money going to college in the first place? And such time, duration of time, if you use such time in something much different, you'll be much greater than other students who go to college for 4 years and come out and start looking for jobs, whereas it's very difficult to get a job in the first place. So every single statement Charlie said actually makes sense. And the last student who was talking about school brought up some beautiful, beautiful points, and I really respect that. The state should handle education, whereas the federal should get their hands off it. This is a beautiful video. Comment down below what you think about this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video to as many as you can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. We'll see you guys in the next video, guys. Make sure you all stay safe.